Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and I just wanted to talk to you for a few minutes about feeling stuck in relationships with narcissists. This is extremely common, so I thought we could talk about it on the show today. If you continue to have relationships with narcissistic people of any kind, whether it's a parent or a friend or a partner, it's extremely important to understand that the way things are is the way they're going to stay. This person will continue to create problems for no reason and be difficult to deal with. They will continue to throw tantrums when they don't get what they want or when things don't go their way. They will continue to be selfish, oblivious, and inconsiderate. They will continue to attack, degrade, or ignore you when they get upset. They will continue to insist that all of this is your fault. You can either learn to live with that or you can walk away, but don't suffer under the fantasy of change. This is an adult person who has behaved this way for years, either because they don't see anything wrong with it or because they don't have the ability to behave differently. This is not a situation that you can address in the context of a relationship, any relationship. The other person has to address it themselves. They have to see the problem, acknowledge the problem, address the problem, and they have to have the willingness as well as the ability to do so. There are many people who do not have pathological personalities and still don't possess either the willingness or the ability to address these things. Sometimes we have to look at our situation and logically assess whether what we want has a realistic likelihood of actually happening. When it comes to narcissists and change, the likelihood of this is so low, it's not worth hoping. This can be difficult to accept, but it's necessary in order to get through any of this with your sanity. Toxic hope is dangerous. Remember, when someone seems emotionally unavailable, it's usually because they actually are emotionally unavailable. Their inability to connect or reach out has nothing to do with you. It's not something that you can fix for them. People may attempt for years to reach an emotionally unavailable partner or parent or sibling. This is an ultimately frustrating and painful exercise in asking someone for something over and over again that they either cannot or will not give you. It is akin to asking for a hug from someone with no arms. You are frustrated because you can't get something very simple that you're asking for, and they are frustrated because they feel like they're failing and they might not even really understand what it is that you want. It can be a fantasy of both people in the relationship that if things could just be perfect, the emotionally unavailable person can finally trust and relax and open up and connect. Unfortunately, this is just not usually the case. The problem is not within the relationship, regardless of what the other person believes, regardless of what you believe. It's within the emotionally unavailable person. This means that you cannot address this by being different. If someone is emotionally unavailable, understand that this is a problem they need to address. There's nothing you can do to change that or fix it, and trying to force or convince this person to be different doesn't work. Some emotionally unavailable people, like narcissists, may not be able to be different. As hard as it is to hear, your love is not a cure for somebody's addiction, for their mental health problem, for their toxic or abusive behavior, for their lack of empathy, for their lack of respect, their inability to bond, or anything else. Love does not fix these things. The human ego doesn't like to hear this kind of thing because it's asserting that the ego doesn't control everything, that there is something that the ego cannot do. Worse, it is asserting that the ego is not going to get what it wants and or believes that it deserves. When we can learn to let go of these ego stories and narratives, accepting things becomes a lot easier. People become stuck because there's something that they don't accept. They don't accept it because they either don't understand it or they don't want to face it. They don't want to face it because it either means that they're going to have to do something they don't want to do or that they're not going to get what they want. They either don't want to do it because it's going to hurt or because they think they shouldn't have to. They want to get what they want because they believe they deserve it. These are ego narratives, and everybody has some of them. Learning to observe and challenge these ego narratives will get you unstuck. When someone says they're stuck, the culprit is usually something they're having trouble accepting. When you can find out what that is and why you're having trouble accepting it, this is how you can work toward accepting it so that you can become unstuck and so that you can move on. For example, people often become stuck on why an abuser treated them badly. They might be looking for some kind of motive that makes sense or something which points to something that they themselves did. That way they can fix it. Victims of abuse often develop a sort of a masochistic grandiosity where they believe that they are somehow controlling or causing everything that other people are doing. The reality is, abuse has no motive. Sometimes people do bad things because they want to. Despite all of the complex mechanisms and things like that that we always talk about that make up people's thought processes, the reality is often just that simple. Somebody did a bad thing because they wanted to. Maybe it's because they're a bad person. Maybe it's because they're the kind of person that wants to do those kinds of things. People become stuck because they won't accept that. They believe it has to be something else because nobody would hurt somebody else on purpose. It's not something else, though. Sometimes people do hurt other people on purpose. Abusers abuse because they are choosing to do so, regardless of whatever happened in their childhood, whatever their reasons are. That is the reality. Abuse has no motive other than essentially because this person feels like doing it, so they do. They gave themselves permission to behave this way a long time ago, and they will continue to do so whenever they can get away with it. That is the reality of the situation. Your job is to make sure the person they're doing that to is not you. So I hope that clears a few things up for you. I take appointments online over the phone, via text, via messenger, via email, and through Skype worldwide. So if you're interested in speaking with me one-on-one, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that. I teach workshops, seminars, and clinics throughout the year, so if you're interested in seeing what we're running, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that as well. You've been listening to the Meditations and More podcast, brought to you by BetterHelp.com and littleshaman.org. That's me, Little Shaman. May the Great Spirit bless you. Have a beautiful day.